Good morning. Sorry, camera's a little shaky this morning. Um, yeah, today I am crossing off my first 12 by 12 art page, scrapbook page for my, 2019. I haven't done a scrapbook page in a very long time. And I'm taking my lovely girls here. They were quite a bit younger back then, but this is the one I'm doing. So the idea is to create my own kind of doodle cut file kind of thing. I don't know. There's not a whole lot of cuts, but for all intents and purposes, that's how I'm doing it. So the idea is to have a coordinating, well, whatever color page you want in the background. You can make this page as big or as small as you want. I did 11 by 11, so I have a little bit of a border. If you want a bigger border around it, by all means cut it smaller and then you have less to fill in. But I like the idea of blank space in between the areas. So having some of the cutaways and some of the color from the background coming through, it really allows me to have more color on the front. So all I've done is took out my pencil crayons, just the cheapy ones from the dollar store, nothing too spectacular. I do have Prismacolors, but I just went cheap this time around. I wanted to see if, do you remember my how to build your own scrapbook kit? I wanted to see if you could create something with that. So I think this is one of those things you can do with it, with some very basic supplies that you would have in there. This is just a candle lid to one of my candles, my winter one. Smells good. From Bath and Body Works. I just did a little, a little applesauce container, and then one of these little storage containers from the dollar store just to draw my circles. I went fairly neatly, and then I went over top of it with a thicker drawing pen. It's basically a Sharpie, so I went a little bit more freehand over top. And then I just used a ruler to make my linear lines, obviously. You could freehand the whole thing if you really wanted to, if you're very stable in drawing. By all means, go for it. I'm not, so I cheated and I used some tools. But I did go over top of it. I do the double line so that I have the area. Even though it looks messy, I like that little area to add a little bit more color and a little bit more interest. So it allows for, it looks like coffee rings, but only in very colorful dimensions. So I thought it was kind of cool. So all I've done is just masked my area with, a little bit of pencil where my picture is going to sit. So I knew how to outline sort of this whole thing. You can mat this, obviously. If you have a paper pad that you got from Michael's, you can mat it on any of the coordinating colors. You could do black, white, you can do whatever you want. You could do hot pink. By all means, we all have neon colors that we probably don't use, and this would be perfect for it because I think the neon in here looks pretty good because there's so much white on here that it would look pretty good with this background. So that is what I did. I just, made it as simple as possible. And you can have more cutaways if you wanted to. There's only 3 on here. I could potentially, do a little area. I'm afraid to cut away too much, if that's a thing. But I totally could. I mean, oh my goodness. You try to work in odd numbers so that, it's pleasing to the eye. But not everything works out the way you expect. So, depending on how much you want to cut away. And I think maybe what I'll do is I'll do a little bit on this one here, because this is quite a lot of blank space to have. And if you cut a little bit on the wrong side, it's all right. Nothing wrong with that. It looks a bit more artistic that way, especially if you do freehand circles. You can totally just do that. So yeah, my other side is just basically a coordinating paper, because what I had thought of doing was just rolling up the paper from behind, just rolling it up and have it hinged on there or something like that, but I didn't end up doing that. So, but if you only have a paper pad and you don't have, anything else, this is a good way of just sort of adding a little bit more interest. Yeah, so the idea, and you can sort of figure things out. Don't attach anything until you know how you want your colors to be in behind. You could totally, you know, put different colors in behind here if you have some really pretty pattern papers that you wanted to showcase. But I just wanted to do it this way. So the idea is to have that blank space so it draws your eye in, but not too overwhelming. So that's the idea. Okay, I'm going to take this pink match out of the way because I get the feeling sometimes too much color is a bit too busy. So sometimes simple is best. So that is the idea I had for this. Now again, you know, work with what you have. And sometimes limiting yourself in your supplies allows you to be more creative, which is what happened in my case. So I do have ink pads. You can get these at the dollar store very simply. I usually ink my edges because it allows for a better framework. And I probably will do my other edge too. There. And if you want it rounded corners, you totally could do that. I think this would look good in all black and white also. It's just a reverse of, you know, just putting down other colors of paper, which is a little bit more interesting and allows you a little bit to be a little bit more creative. So that's the idea. And then we're going to attach it just very simply. Because I'm not going to put glue everywhere. It's okay to have a little bit on there. It's just going to go in an album, so it'll hold in place quite nicely. So I'm quite happy with that. I know it's not odd numbers, but there's 3 here and 3 up here, so I think where that's concerned, it works out quite well. I'm happy about that. Now, we all pretty much have neon colors, and we don't know what to do with it. So in this case, I might actually, that is about as neon as I'm going to be able to find, I think. And then just put that there, because I think this is not neon necessarily, but there's enough other neon in here that I think it works out quite well. Go big or go home. Paper trimmer would be helpful. That's the one I usually use. I have it pretty much all lined up on how I do it. Just need a little bit of a border around it. I don't really use neon cards for much, unless I'm doing like summer pages and things like that. This is a summer picture of my girls from a few years ago. Their freckles are really standing out. It's a nice summer picture. They have, you know, that lovely glowing tan going on. So I thought it'd be perfect for kind of a neon kind of deal. And the other reason why is because my pencil lines, I could erase them if I wanted to, I guess. I just can't locate my eraser for some weird reason. So but this also gives me a marking point of where I'm going to put it, right? So keep in mind where you want to put things. Sometimes you can get a little carried away and it just ends up not where you put it at all. So again, I'm going to ink my edges. And I don't know if I want to pop it up with foam tape. Maybe I will. I think it'll be okay. Sometimes I like foam tape for scrapbooking, sometimes I don't. I don't understand why. Usually I try to keep the pictures as flat as possible. I think maybe this might be just better if we just keep it flat. But like I said, I haven't been doing 12 by 12 pages in such a long time. I think this is a good way of sort of getting my feet wet and getting back into it again. I have a lot of photographs to go through. I think I've gotten to the point where I'm not going to do anything in like chronological order. I'm just going to grab a picture and just go for it and see what I can come up with, because I think sometimes a 12 by 12 page can be very intimidating. But that actually looks pretty good. I like that. And again, you know, you can take your black pen, marker, whatever, and yeah, how I usually do my rough, just to add that extra little layer of line drawing and color once I do the double line. But for some reason, I've always done this and I've always liked it, and I just keep going. Why fix it if it ain't broke, right? So, and it allows to show so much more than just the plain background as is. You totally can leave it that way, of course, if that's what you want. But I've done this on so many things now. It's become a habit, and I really like it. And it allows you to bring more color into the areas you wouldn't think of before. So this neon color, you know, I just really seem to enjoy it. So I'm just going to add it back in where I can. You know, if you have a highlighter, by all means, go for it. Pencil crayon is a little bit softer in color for neon. If you want to do watercolors, obviously get watercolor paper. 12 by 12 might be a little bit tough to find, but I think in the end, the result is interesting. I think anyway. And it's okay if you go over the edge a little bit, it's okay. I am not a perfectionist when it comes to scrapbooking. I'd rather just be creative and not worry about being, you know, all in line with everything and, you know, having it perfect. I want the overall feel and look of my pages to be fun and creative and showcase whatever picture I put on there. That's the idea. I want it to speak for itself. And my girls are very fun. They're a lot of fun to hang around with. They have a great sense of humor. And I think, you know, even though sometimes they're very, very girly, other times, you know, they can be very wild and crazy, and that's okay too. And I think this is what it shows their personality the best, you know. I think anyway. So I thought it was kind of cool to do it that way. And then you can just add little stars. Which you can color. You try to keep to one side as much as possible so that everything sort of reads off to one side. I mean, if you had other things to coordinate with this, by all means, you know, go for it. But I think it's important to limit yourself sometimes. I don't know. It allows for more creative work. And I don't always want to use all kinds of embellishments. Embellishments can get expensive. I mean, yes, it's nice to have a stash and everything else, but I don't know. Sometimes it can be a bit much. And we tend to collect and collect and collect. You know. You can just sort of add where you want. It seems very counterintuitive, but just sort of have fun with it. I don't think it's necessary to always have everything planned out 100%, because I think it allows for more of a playful kind of page. So that is the idea. So yeah, I think I can cross, my 12 by 12 page off my list. I think I finally gotten back into it again. So I think this will be fun to put into my photo album, my scrapbook album, and see how far I can get with some of these. So I hope you enjoyed this, guys. Again, it's a little bit different than what I'm normally used to doing. I do cards and other paper crafting, but 12 by 12 scrapbook pages has not been in my wheelhouse for quite some time. So this is a fun way to incorporate your fun papers and maybe some neon colors, since that is still one of the colors for the year. And yeah, you can put neon with just regular colors too. I think this is one way to do it because there's so much white space. You can totally do it this way. Does it need a title? Probably not. I don't think so. You obviously can put one on there if you really want to. I think I'm just going to leave it as is and call it a day. So I hope you enjoyed it, guys. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.